Okay, let me unmute myself there so everybody can hear me. I suppose everybody can hear me. If you just type in the question box, that would help me. All right. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Randy, Damian, Connor, Jim, Mike. Great to be back with you guys. This is my 4th week doing the Trade of the Week webinar. I'm happy to do it. I love this kind of stuff. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Steve Gomez, longtime trader since '95. I've known Dan Merkin since '98, as well as Brad even earlier. I'm number 3 in the Trade Ideas user back system. So I've been around for a while. I've watched this great product evolve from just a blank canvas into what it is today. And I'm very happy to be here. So if you want some more information on who's talking here for the next 45 minutes, you can click into the chat window. I've popped my quick bio in there to get those up to speed who are not familiar with me. So yeah, Trade of the Week, April 27th. Thanks for joining us, taking the time out of your busy day. Quick disclaimer, the purpose of the webinars here are not to be recommending trade and investment ideas. Leave that up to your registered investment advisor. We are not RIAs, we are content publishers, and so anything that you see or hear in the webinars should not be considered or taken as investing advice. So I had to borrow a slide from Dan's earlier presentation today because I think it really is poignant. I've been reading a lot about the hedge fund world, the managed money world. They are really struggling out there. They are not putting in good numbers. And then an interesting tweet came through here that Dan grabbed and screenshot. Dan Loeb predicting hedge fund industries a washout, calling current market hedge fund killing field. And if you've seen some of the articles or some of the tables on their performances, you would agree. Hedge funds are confused. They don't really know what to do. They're underperforming and they're doing it in masses. So it's kind of an interesting thing to see. I think we're really on the cusp, the precipice of a new paradigm for investing, and just throwing your money into averaging indexes and Vanguards and ETFs and your 401ks, you know, that's old school. We kind of have a vision here at Trade Ideas that anybody can be the CEO of their future, and you know, if you want to hold a good chunk of your retirement with the professionals, that's great, but there's really nothing wrong with taking 15 or 20% of that and taking control of that yourself and becoming your own hedge fund, becoming your own wealth hacker, which is a new term that Dan has been coining so well. And so once again, Trade Ideas is a great way for people to take advantage of maybe just a portion of their retirement and try and do a little better than the hedge funds have been doing lately. So today's theme again is going to be keeping it simple. I mean, is this you? Is this you during the market hours with the lights flashing and everything coming to your attention and chat rooms and look at this and look at that and I'm along this and along that, and you know, is your head just spinning during the market hours trying to figure out how do I hook up to a viable method and try and make things simple? Well, I'm going to show you again here how to try and make things simple using Trade Ideas. And so, you know, this is probably how some of these hedge funds are starting to look these days, wondering how they're going to outperform the markets going forward. But that's not our problem. Our problem is worrying about our finances. And so going forward today, we'll talk a little bit about market performance, market recap. We'll take a look at the spiders, maybe look at the bigger picture like I always try and do. We'll do a little bit of a recap of today's AI Holly action. And then we will talk about the trade of the week, and also the past few trades of the weeks. We'll see how those are still holding up and maybe even talk about adjusting some downside risk stops on those. And then I'll have you just kind of look over my shoulder. I've got some ideas that I want to look at, maybe a few more that I haven't seen, but we'll look at in real time as I do some homework and set some price alerts. And then for those of you who are familiar with the price alerts and have the price alerts with the premium functionality at Trade Ideas, you remember that they are a collaborative type of tool. I can share these. So after we go through some stock charts and talk about why I'm marking them up at certain levels and what my thought process is, at the very end we'll go ahead and scrape those and collaborate with those in the cloud and let those who want to drop those into their own price list and take advantage of the homework I've been doing. So real quick on this slide that we're looking at, we like to constantly update you guys. This is our back end graph. It's not really sexy, but trust me, we're coming out with something a lot more sexy in the near future. But this again is showing us the performance outdoing the S&Ps. And again, this blue line here has been underwater for most of the year and just barely got its head above. And from what we saw earlier on the hedge fund report, these guys can't even keep up with the S&P. It's a tough business for those guys, trying to do their channel checks and whatever else they do behind the scenes to try and figure out how they can get an edge. But whatever it is they're doing, they're not doing it. But Holly sure is. I want to give you another view. This again is just the month of April. We just screenshotted the April performance here, and you can see off to a slow start, but definitely outperforming the S&Ps on the aggregate. A total of 14 points this month for Holly alone, with the S&P not updating today. So the S&P's lagging big time. Holly's outperforming it by 3 or even 4 to 1. It appears to me based on this table of data. And then one more screenshot here that's really worth noting is this is the Trade Ideas subscriber growth. This is 2003, back when I first started using Trade Ideas and watched the guys launch this thing. They had a nice launch, and then they focused on the enterprise for a long time, the E-Trades and the Scott Trades and those type of enterprise contracts. But they realized that there's so much more than just the enterprise, and we started to unroll some of our new features, and including the AI. But you can see here in 2015, pretty nice stock chart if you looked at it in terms of a stock chart. Really nice breakout. And then here is January. I mean, we're starting to enter the parabolic phase of Trade Ideas subscriber growth. I mean, this is all good. There's nothing bad here for anybody. The word is getting out. People are starting to realize that this technology is the real deal, and we're onto something here. So with that said, I'll kind of move into the presentation tonight. As usual, you're looking at my default screen here on the Trade Ideas, but I'm going to expand this daily chart a little bit here, and we'll go to the spiders, and we'll start by zooming in a little bit. We did have an FOMC day today, so that's why we had some volatility during the day. You're pretty much guaranteed volatility when you're talking about a Fed day every 6 months. But for those of you that have been tuning in a lot with me lately, you'll know that I had kind of a trend line drawn where we broke above that trend line. And now I'll just use the horizontal crosshairs here. This level is the next level of supply interest. Actually, this one was the first to touch, and you can see that wick bounced right off these levels. So if you don't get in the habit of looking to your left on these daily charts to find levels of interest, pivot levels, support and resistance levels, you got to start doing that. And so you can see right here, essentially this was tested last week in the S&P, but still no sell-off. The dips are continuing to be purchased and bought by the dip buyers. Short sellers are pulling their hair out. A lot of short squeezes are going off. Next level is up here around the 211.70 area. I think it's just a foregone conclusion. It's a fait accompli. We are going to test these levels up here at some point. I just don't know if it's going to be soon or later, or if it's going to be the direct route, the expressway, or if we're going to continue to take kind of the mountain road, buy the dips and create higher highs and higher lows. But these are the levels I'm watching for. But in my opinion, the bulls are still firmly in charge, and this next level could be a level of interest, 211.60, and then of course going way back here to our all-time highs right up here around the 213.80 level, give or take a few dimes. So again, the bulls are still in control. The bears have not been able to get us to get a sell-off for whatever reason you want to call it. We are still in a buy the dip type market until things change. And so that is that for the market recap. Let's take a look at what the AI that we affectionately call Holly did today. Got a list here of closed trades. Let me just go and grab those closed trades, and you can see we had a lot of strategies today. And again, even Holly agrees with what I just said. Coming in today, look at this directional bias. Just one short, and everything else was long. The short did have a couple of trades. 4 trades today, 3 out of 4 winners. Did pretty good actually. And these are the days I love when we can demonstrate that the AI doesn't just have to pick one direction and go with it. We can rely on this this AI engine to create, generate trade ideas in real time that are both long and short. But today the directional bias for the most part was long. Let's take a look at a few examples. I'm going to double click on the profit, and you can see we did have some good winners today. XON, I want to talk a little bit about that one because we do have this other column called the non-exit profit. And let me just double click and sort that real quick, because this really is the nut of the entire day if you consider Holly's calls all the way into the close. This particular column is the net profit based on Holly's timed stops. You can see all of these exit reasons were done because of a time expiration, and then a couple of these losers down here were stops that were hit. But another way to look at this is just say, geez, you know, this Holly sure is generating alpha. If there were no exits today, this is how all of these trade ideas finished up for the day. So using the heat map here, you can see it's a pretty good bias towards some good profits today. And again, using the non-exit profit, I'm going to use XON as an example because once again, if you'll notice, time stop. Holly has to get out of these trades before the bell every day. Some of these trades only last 30 minutes. Some of them go a full 5 hours. It just depends. But when you see a time stop, that is the reason that Holly, you know, has to get out. But that doesn't mean that you, the trader, has to get out. We've said many times this is a gray box alert system. It's alerting you to great trade opportunities that are statistically probable in real time. The exit really is up to you, but there's a couple of suggestions in here. The time stop certainly is one of them, but I don't think a whole lot of weight should be given on it, and we'll talk about that in a second. But when we start getting into negative trades, the smart stop, which for some reason I don't have in here, let's just go through this drill real quick here. We're going to right-click columns. We're going to look to add a new column here. I'm looking for the smart stop column. If I can find it, there it is, smart stop. Let's go ahead and throw that into the mix so we can see what that is as well. Open this up, and this smart stop is really the risk reward management, the risk management I should say on the risk side. Every stock you see does have a different value for the smart stop, and these are quantitative by the AI, looking at each individual stock price and the volatility, the true range for each average true range on these daily bars. So there is a lot to be gleaned from this smart stop. If you've got a stock going against you, these are good ideas to pay attention to, and Holly certainly demonstrates that for you when she goes into risk management mode and gets out because of a stop hit. So today we had 1 stop hit, 2 stop, 3, we had 4 stop hits. The rest of them were timed stops. So with that said, let's go back to this XON trade. All right, I'm going to double click that, and that gives us the entry arrows. And the entry on this one was entry price was 24.22, right about here. Okay, this is the candle right at the top of this candle. The arrow is showing the candle that is referenced, and the price is 24.22. Well, that's great. You can see there was really never any pain in this one. And as we go forward, Holly decided to jump out because the time stop was expiring of 1 hour at, what was the exit price? 25.80, which is right about here. Well, as you can see, we still were we're still net negative for the day. This is the closing price up here. If you're a seasoned trader, or even if you're a beginning trader, chances are this particular stock is going to continue to try and want to go and close that gap and go green for the day. So there really wasn't any reason for you, if you're watching Holly, to just jump out because Holly has to jump out. When you look at this chart, there's more meat on that bone. And the exact opposite can be said for the stocks that got stopped out. Let's take a look down here. I'm going to move this over here so I can kind of move these better. Okay, here's our profit. Our worst trade of the day down here was, $1.09. Okay, well, it saved us from going down $1.34. That's not bad. The profit, the risk management is really important to pay attention to. There is one anomaly here, LNG. We'll talk about this one. I was actually tweeting about this one this morning because I was really excited to see Holly come out with LNG on a call. Let me take a look at the daily chart. And you can kind of see why I liked this. For those of you that have been listening to the old trend change lubricant type setups, looks to me like it's trying to do the same thing. So I was really happy with the way this call came out today. However, Holly doing her job, using her smart stop, got stopped out of this one. But as you'll see, the pullback was a little bit egregious, and this is where we got stopped out. And these are the ones, again, if you like it as much as I did on the daily chart, you can trade around these. Just because she was stopped out, if it goes lower, great. Some good risk management. But if you were to turn around and maybe put an alert in here with our right click, creating a price alert midday, maybe right above these candles here, it was going to reverse and go back up. Here's an opportunity to jump back in and once again take part in the trade, because what essentially happened was this trade was a good trade by Holly as exhibited by the non-exit column that I showed you earlier. The LNG, if I double click LNG, it was number 2 on the board even though it got stopped out. So the theory is, this is still a viable good entry based on the quantitative analysis that went on overnight, and it finished up great. It just took the circuitous mountain road, and sometimes we have to be aware of if we get stopped out, if the stock turns back up, be prepared to maybe re-participate in that. That's the beauty of the non-exit column, in my opinion. So another good day for Holly, up $2.15 on not too many trades. Again, you guys take a look at this non-exit column, because this really is the meat of what Holly's coming out with every day, because it takes it from the opening trade all the way to the bell. It's a little different picture than using the risk management or the time stops, especially the time stops. I mean, look how many time stops we have here. So ask yourself the next time you're in a Holly trade, if the time stop is expiring and the stock still looks like it's got some meat on the bone and looks like it's got some run in it, you're the one who's in charge of deciding when to get in or when to get out of these. This is not a golden goose. It's not the Holy Grail. That's why we call her Holly. It's almost a play on words of the Holy Grail. But this is, for the most part, the most sophisticated alert that Trade Ideas has come up with to date. Just look at it like an alert or in a top list, but it's got a lot more stuff going on behind the scenes because of the quantitative analysis. Remember, it's running over 1 million strategies every night while we sleep, optimizing to come up with this starting lineup the following day. All right, so that is the little recap on Holly. Let's get into the trade of the week. And I've got a few things to say about that. The trade of the week, if you don't know, was CWEI, and it came out Monday morning. Actually, I want to start on the intraday, because this was kind of an unusual one. Let me tell you what our biggest fear is, our biggest anxiety when the trade of the week is selected and composed and then put into the email queue and sent out. It takes a little bit of time to put that together and write it up and grab some screenshots and drop it into the format. Our biggest fear of these types of trades is the stock is going to get away from us while we're writing it, and the stock email comes and it's already 50 cents behind us. Well, that doesn't do anybody any good, and we recognize that. So quite the opposite happened with CWI. Here's Monday's action, here's Tuesday's action, and here's today's action in a 15-minute chart. As Monday opened up here, we had a little bit of a run in CWEI, and I'm showing you the intraday chart here just to remind you that when the actual trade was written up, I think it was written up at 17.95, right around here in this congestion area. It was going down, it was going up, it was chopping back and forth. But by the time the trade actually came out and to the email crowd, it was down here around 17.50. That's actually a good deal for you guys, especially looking here in hindsight. You're actually getting a better price than the trade call price was. And of course, we wrote in the stop on this one was down there about 17.20-ish. And let's go back to the daily chart here to kind of look at the reasoning behind all that. Zoom in just a bit. Okay. This was the trade of the week candle right here this day, and we decided to just go back a couple days and take it to the bottom of this level right here, which is, 16.20-ish. So I gave it an extra 10 cents. If you're using stops 1 penny or 2 pennies below the most obvious level of where the algos might try to run a stop hunt, you're probably going to get collected up in that nonsense. So I try and maybe put a stop 10, 12, 15 cents sometimes below those levels. So if it does go down there and run those stops, hopefully you're lucky enough to not get caught up in that stop hunt and have it bounce back up before it comes down to a sloppier, a little bit more liberal type of stop. But the point being is here, you can see on the day of the trade, we got close. You know, we came down to a low of 1641. We were 21 cents away from the suggested stop, but it never triggered. And again, that's kind of what I expected. You know, this is a level of congestion going on in here, and if it's going to break down below a couple of these candles, well, then we don't want it. The trade is off. But luckily for us, it didn't, and it actually gave you guys a little better entry. It's funny, you know, when every week when we send out the trade of the week, we always have a few vocal critics that like to weigh in and let us know what they think of the trade. And we had one person email immediately and say, what are you calling this CWEI for? This is an energy stock. Don't you know that oil's been rallying and oil's getting ready to roll over? If anything, this CWI should be a short. Well, I kind of hope whoever wrote that email is in attendance tonight, because I don't concern myself with what I think is going to happen. I only concern myself with the footprints in the sand. And yes, I understand CWEI is an energy stock, but look at what Legacy was doing the morning of the Friday and then Monday. Legacy, another similar type stock, breaking out. You know, we've had Chesapeake breaking out. We've had SWN, a lot of these stocks breaking out. Well, CWEI is in the same sector. It's just a bit of a lagger. And it had that really nice look that we've been talking about for the last few weeks here. So, you know, if you guys aren't following me on Twitter, my handle is TodayTrader, and I had a tweet that went out yesterday, you know, kind of time-stamped in the middle of these two goofy tweets. May your life be as awesome as you pretend it is on Facebook. This was written on yesterday morning. After I was kind of mulling over that email that guy gave me. Everybody's giving reasons why USO oil is going lower. Well, I simply look at the footprints in the sand on daily charts, and I see it wants to go higher. And so that call was made yesterday on Twitter, reminding people that I don't get caught up in what the Fed's saying or what people are saying or especially what analysts are saying. They're always on the wrong side. All I'm looking at is the footprints in the sand. And you guys have been following enough weeks here to see that this particular chart of USO, which is the ETF for oil, is looking right here at this pivot point. You know, if you don't know how to draw a pivot point, just look back and see where prior support, current resistance, they all seem to kind of line up here on this pivot area. And that's what I was seeing. And I fully expected oil to make a move higher, which it did today. And so we're happy about it. The CWEI trade is still in effect. And I believe we're going to have a good day tomorrow. Fingers crossed, I'm really hoping we have a good day tomorrow, because what's going on in this stock? Well, it's a 40% short the float. Let's just go check our handy dandy single stock window here, CWEI. A couple things to note. Short float 40%. Okay, that's pretty significant. If these guys get any more upside movement, they're going to have to consider if they want to stick in a losing position that's breaking out technically, or if they're just going to stay married to it and put their head in the sand. Other things of note, we are right in the throngs of earnings season. Earnings is 6 days away on this, so it would be really nice if this thing could build a little bit of cushion going into earnings. And it's quite possible that it won't. It's quite possible it might still chop around at these levels here until the catalyst of the earnings come out. I hope not. I'd rather see a run going into earnings. But let's just look at a couple levels here of interest. This next level, of course, is going to be the tops of these two wicks here around 1996. So just under 20, we're going to have some more supply come in. And then going back here, it looks like some more supply at 2132. But if we can clear that, I think this has a potential to get back to these levels of resistance up here in the $26 level. So there could be some real meat on the bones, especially when you consider the short float in there. I mean, put yourself in their perspective. You're short this stock. It's not going lower. It's doing that look where it just keeps banging its head, looking for the weak spot in the ice to push higher. If this thing gets a move, you're going to have a decision to make. And the longs that are establishing new longs, as well as the panicked shorts that are covering and scrambling to cover their shorts, is going to create a short squeeze. Bring your attention back to U.S. Steel, because this is an example, again, of what these types of setups can actually do. Take a look at this. Looks very similar to what we saw in oil and CWE down here at these levels. But if you recall, X Steel had a giant 50% short the float, and it was showing up at the top of all my top lists. Once it broke above this technical level, which again here, look, resistance, support, support. So it's really safe to just say this horizontal line here is a simple pivot point. But look what happened when it got above the technical pivot point. It exploded with volume, and this is all the footprints and all the evidence of a massive short squeeze. And these are the kinds of moves that we're looking for these types of stocks. And again, I showed you a minute ago, SWN on its way, CHK on its way, Legacy on its way. So, you know, the sector in itself is giving me confidence that this CWEI should follow suit here pretty close, and we're getting to these technical levels where that would make sense. Okay, I want to talk about a couple more trades of the weeks which are still intact. Let's go back a week to Yelp. Yelp is still intact, although I want to show you something. This little wick this morning, once again, was a stop hunt. And my theory and my belief is that most of these stop hunts are going to occur on the open. And once again, you can see that's exactly what here in Yelp. Right on the open, zing, zing, you know, stop hunt. And when you see those quick moves and then a quick bounce in the first 20 minutes, first half an hour, and then a base and a bidder start to hold and start to trend higher, I've seen this so often. Don't let this scare you out. And this is one of the reasons I actually will consider pulling some of my protective stop losses in the first 15 or 20 minutes, because I've been a victim of this more times than I care to recount, and it's painful and I hate it. And so I know that, you know, I can always manage risk, but I don't want to be a part of these stop hunts in the first 30 minutes if you have a really tight stop, because this is when these seem to want to occur. As a matter of fact, I've got another example from one of the Holly trades today, GRA. Look what happened today in GRA. This is the first candle of the day. Stop hunting, bouncing, reversing, and going to highs. There's nothing more aggravating than being this person down here getting stopped out, only to watch your stock turn around and go to highs. So what can this mean to you if you're not participating in the stock? Well, just remember that this is the action that the algos seem to be drumming up these days. You know, whether it's intentional, I believe it's just you know, the way it is. They all work together in concert, and it's an unintended consequences of having algorithms make our markets. You get people that go home after work and log into E-Trade and Ameritrade, and they look at their prices and they start loading their buy stops and their sell stops and their market buys and their market sells overnight. And then if you don't realize it, those orders, you're being sold out. E-Trade, Schwab, Ameritrade, Scottrade, they're all selling their orders to Citadel in these giant, what you call internalizers. Those internalizers actually pay E-Trade, Ameritrade, and Scottrade for your order flow. And so in my opinion of a conspiracy, I think gives them a little bit too much information, and that's why we see sometimes in the first half hour of the day a lot of stop hunts and a lot of whooshes. So when you see that in a quick reversal, don't get scared. Know that that's probably the worst is behind you, and we're probably getting ready to move higher. You know, I used to use this dynamic in the first 20 minutes of the day. I used to use this as, I call it surviving the come-out rule. You know, for those of you who've been in casinos and have played craps at all, you recall that when you start a new game, you got to survive that come-out roll on either side of the board, whether you're on the come line or off the come line. That first come-out roll can be treacherous if the wrong numbers come up. But once those numbers, or once that come out roll has been satisfied, all right, well then the game is on and the chips start to stack in and things start to fill. And that's how I view some of these crazy algo stop hunts in the first 20 minutes of these markets. All right, so Yelp, we talked about Yelp trying to stop people out but didn't quite get to our stops. They're down here below these wicks. So Yelp, I mean, if anything, good sign. Tried to run the stops, bounced right back up like a cork underwater and ready to hopefully put in a better day tomorrow. RGLD, a gold stock, still doing very well. For those that recall, we actually had this as a buy on the open this day, so this is our entry right here. The stop was down in this area. But now I'm thinking, you know, it's time to update this stop. I believe it's time to update this stop because we put in a higher low, another higher low, and we're starting to push up again. I think the stop needs to be raised to where the stock is not going to be a losing trade. The low end of these wicks here again is 55.32, 55.30. So putting it at 55.29, just a penny away, might not be a great idea. They might get you on the next big stop hunt. So maybe add 20 cents or so. Maybe put it down here, you know, 54.60 or 54.70. Give yourself a little bit of slop so they can't pick you off. That's been my experience. Going back even one more week was IBB, and again, all four of these last trade of the weeks are still intact. IBB had a little rough move today. I'm not exactly happy to see this, but I think in the last week's webinar we talked about moving our stop up to the entry point, which was right around here, I believe, you know, below this green line. But I had this green line in here just for a reference point. I would say this is probably a good place to put in a new stop, not let the trade go negative on you. So 272, call it 271.80, you know, give it another 50 cents or so you don't get caught in the stop hunt. All right, so that is the recap of the trade of the week, going back plus a few more weeks. Now it's time to bring in the thing that I am really most excited about, again, is the price alerts. Using these price alerts, and I talk with a lot of new traders that sign up for the Hour of Power with me and Jamie, and what I always try to really steer them towards is using the price alerts. Now this is my price alert board. I can sort it many different ways, but if I just click on created, double click back for April 6th, basically was the first date of all of the data on this particular one. So this is all the stuff that's been working on my price alerts since April 6th. And what's the most important field to pay attention to is this field up here, which tells me I'm doing something right. And this is where we can step in and start outperforming the hedge funds if we just add a little bit of thought and try and really simplify it. And when I say simplify, I mean, this is one piece of what I'm calling the trade ideas holy trinity. The price alerts, the alerts themselves, whether they be a top list or whether they be Holly in a trade around or any of our other alerts, and the third component being our charts. That's all we really need to do to pay attention to bring us in real time good trading opportunities. Trading opportunities that aren't going to turn us into, you know, something like this during the day. We're trying to avoid this. It's very easy to do this, chasing your tail in chat rooms and alerts coming and going. But if you can just reduce it down to the most simplest, efficient way using these three tools, it makes it so much easier. And again, if you new traders are setting triggers, whether they're triggers from below or triggers from above, and then you look back 2 weeks later and this number here is negative, you need to reassess your method because it's giving you a very inexpensive way to let you know your methodology is not really on track. But when you've got something that's working for a few weeks and you've got some nice good profits, this tells you you are working. And so you need to keep doing the same thing. So that said, let's keep doing the same thing. I'm going to suppress. Let's see here. Oh, why can't I suppress those? There we go. Invalidated. Okay, even though I can't see that, it must be a bug. We're just going to start with our workings here. And recall, the ones that are working, we can still keep an eye on and double click and say how close are we to the alert? How far away from the alert are we? Whether you're coming from above or below. So let's go ahead and set some alerts. I'm going to use the trend change lubricant again. I've got a couple that I started scanning for last night because, as you know, these are updated every 30 seconds. And this batch right here is basically the close from today. But I'm constantly looking through these charts during the day, trying to see things that pop up and things that I like. And then we'll go through this one. This is a new top list called Top Predator that Mr. Merkin actually created and shared with me, which is, again, one of the most beautiful things about trade ideas is the crowd collaboration, being able to share stuff with the crowd. All right, so let's set a few alerts and let's do some homework and see if we can you know, bring to light what the reasoning is behind some of these, and then when we're done, we'll go ahead and share them. All right, so the first one I'm going to pick is off the trend change lubricant. It was higher this morning, but I really like this Hovnanian, so I'm going to double click Hovnanian. We're going to open it up here, expand it out, and it looks like what it did was just barely take out this high going back and then kind of pull back and retreat it a little bit. Well, I'd like to know if this one, if it's just going to fall back into its range, fine, no big deal, no harm, no foul. But I think if we can make a new high in this one, the new high in this one is looking at like 182. We're going to go ahead and set a new alert for 183. I'd like to know if it can continue this move. I like the way it is acting here at this level. And again, it wouldn't matter if it pulled back for a day or two. Matter of fact, I'd probably prefer that if it pulled back for a day or two and then jumped up and took that out. Okay, so 182 is our level. It's going to be a long, so we make sure we're going the right direction when we track this on our price alerts. And then I always try and remind people, you know, right now it's Zen time. It's nice and easy. Give yourself a reason as to why you like this setup. New high means probably continuation. And so I'm giving my future self, who's probably going to be a little bit more tied up in the urgency of the day, a good note in the current mellow Zen state of mind as to what I'm actually seeing. So we'll go ahead and set that one, and you'll see, as usual, it's a red bar, and it will turn green once it is triggered. But, you know, a lot of these charts are very cup and handly, for lack of a better adjective. These are the charts that I really like, and I want to continue to focus on. The next one that I wrote down was ALJ, was taken off this list as well, trend change lubricant. ALJ, however, this one, actually I believe I've already set this one, but I'm going to go ahead and set it again. So let's quickly delete the ALJ. And this is all server side. You can't just highlight it and hit the delete key. It's not going to go anywhere. You got to right click into it and let the server know I want to delete this particular alert. Okay. So now we can start fresh again. What I see here is a stock that got a little bit too far ahead of itself, but it's still got that really nice look, that bottoming look that it wants to break out and you know, change the trend. So it broke through these obvious pivot levels here today, but then you can see, if we zoom in a little bit, we have a nice topping tail. I would not be buying a chart like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 green bars plus a topping tail. If you're buying this kind of setup, good luck to you. They don't really work out in my opinion. I'd rather wait for a pullback. So in my estimation, I think an interesting level here, I'm putting my crosshairs right here at this level, which is below the prior candle from 2 days ago. I really think that a stop hunt could come back and try and challenge the lows of this candle. And as if you look over here, we've also got a top tick there, bottom tick here. So I've identified a level which I think is what I'm going to call a pivot point. So I'm going to set this alert at that pivot point just below the low of this candle, which is 11.16. So let's go 11.15. Create price alert. Now when we're coming from above, the default thinks that we want to go short. We don't want to go short. We want this to be a long. We're just trying to be a patient trader and not be the one who's chasing the train all the time. So we're going to remind ourselves this is a pullback alert. Remember to watch the price action if triggered. You know, especially these pullback alerts, not so much more for the breakout alerts, because the breakout alerts are more time sensitive. Those are the ones that you probably want to pick up and buy. But these pullback alerts are a little different in their dynamics. These are the ones you want to watch how they trade when they come back and they get triggered. And obviously you want to watch them on an intraday chart. But you're looking for, you know, if it overshoots by 10 or 15 cents, that's fine. It happens all the time. But you want to see a bidder step in and you want to see a bit of a wick and a jump off that low price and then start to just hold that bid again and watch that price action. And if you feel like this is a safe area where the buyers are coming back in, well, it certainly makes sense to me. Looking at these footprints on the sand here, I just try and identify a simple pivot point. And I see this as a pivot point. I'm not going to be the one buying this, but I will be the one who wants to evaluate what the price action looks like after it gives back 2 days here and settles into a pivot point. You know, maybe I'm wrong, maybe it never triggers, but not chasing a stock and getting slammed the following day is better in my book than missing a trade altogether. There's no harm, no foul. All right, so we got ALJ set up. I also had selected WEFT. Oops. Let me zoom out. Again, kind of a W bottom pattern here. But this one is still kind of taking its time, and I see a pretty big level here. And so I'm going to set this one more for the future. I probably wouldn't expect this one to go off this week, maybe sometime in the near future, but I still like the way this one's looking, so I'll go ahead and set this one as well. Breakout, question mark, reminding myself, hopefully there was a bunch of consolidation just under this area, because if that's the case, even better. I prefer to see consolidation under this level before it tries to go through, rather than just one big green bar today or tomorrow running up to these levels and then pulling back, because essentially it's expended all its energy off of lows with a quick pullback and then a move up to the highs here. So ideally, I wouldn't mind seeing this one go off in a couple weeks, but nonetheless, I'd still like to know about it if it does go off. Again, we're just trying to keep this as simple as possible, using the most efficient way we can to bring ideas to us in real time and not be that deer in the headlights just chasing every bell, whistle, and light that goes off in front of us during the day. All right, Restoration Hardware. I like this one as well. This is obviously earnings back here, and whatever bad news that was in there has worked itself off, and nice sideways action going on here. This one, we don't have a whole lot of energy being expended to where we are, and we're very close to the top end of this before the gap is exposed. What's the top end of this? This high is 40.63. The high of today's candle is 40.87. So we actually just kind of poked through it by a few pennies. But I would like to know, once again, I would like to know if this high today is taken out, so I'm going to make this an alert from below. The high is 46.87. Let's go to 46.88. We can correct our price there. And looking for breakout after good consolidation. And this is what I was talking about on that last chart. Good consolidation, back and forth, sideways action, building up that potential energy to make a move and squeeze above, because rarely do you see, these types of trades work well where it expended all that energy, trying to get that level, just like I showed you in WTF a minute ago. All right, so RH is on the books. Let's go to, I believe it's NYLD, which I also found on the trend change. Hang on a second. Yeah, there we go. Really nice basing action here in this one. But once again, look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 green candles coming into today. Probably going to be running out of energy by the time it gets to this, so I don't think I would set so much an alert for a new high or a break above this. I think this one is ripe for, again, pulling back and trying to gather some steam. So let's see if we can locate a pivot point. And I think this is probably a pretty good one right here. We got a top of that level. We have a top here, and then we have support back here. So support can turn into resistance very easily, and that's what defines a pivot level. So let me just kind of eyeball this pivot level here based on those prior history candles, and that's going to be my spot. And again, this is going to be a pullback alert. So we will code this as a long trade because we're coming back to our price entry. And again, PB alert. Make sure you watch the price action before jumping in. All right, we got that one set. Okay, now we're going to move over to a different one. Always trying to see, what the crowd, whether it's the Trade Ideas guys, Jamie, Brad, Dan, myself, or some other really experienced users come up with and share with us in the chat room, or what have you. This is a new one. It's called Top Predator, and it's basically trying to find things that are in motion now. Not so much always down, beaten up on the daily chart, trying to do a trend change lubricant, but there's some stuff in here that I perused through, and I want to pull a couple out that I like. Very first one being this SB. Let me grab this. Okay, SB. My thoughts on this one was we had a really nice base build, and then a couple days of movement. We did break up just above this and then kind of pulled back and closed right at the level of that candle there. This one has consolidated enough here in this little area right here, enough for me to trust an alert from below. So I'm just going to use the alert at the top of this candle here, which is $1.40, and I'm just going to go 141, create alert. and looking for breakout. So again, the holy trinity of our method here is using the alerts, the scans, the top lists, the AI as idea generating, taking a look at them on the chart, seeing what levels make sense, and then putting them in our wheelhouse for future reference. It's that simple. Looks like this thing just went green on me, which means it triggered, and we don't want that. Let me just show you a trick. You can go to properties and take your crosshairs off, and then that allows you to grab this sucker and move it up to 141. I'm not quite sure why it shows triggered. Let's see here. Well, it's not showing up on there because it's showing up because it triggered. Let's see if we can delete this. Okay, I hovered over it and clicked the delete, and now we've deleted it. Let's go ahead and reset this one. I'll just go ahead and create the price alert, and we'll put the price in manually, because whatever I did before, I'll go 42 this time, because 41 I didn't like. Oh, why is it doing that? Why is it doing that? Oh, somebody could be right. It could be after hours causing it to trigger, post-market 150. Interesting point there, guys. I was not aware of that. Let's take a look here. Right-click on the intraday post-market, and you are correct. There's some post-market stuff in there. And if we look here, SB, on our single stock window, I believe we probably have earnings in this thing. So we will take that one off the table because it has already going to be gapping up through our price alerts tomorrow. So scratch that one. On to the next one I had was HBM off of this particular alert. Let's take a look and see what I was liking about HBM. Oh boy. If this isn't a cup and handle, I'm not quite sure what is. This looks very similar to a lot of the charts we look at, and it's given us, let me put my crosshairs back on, it's given us a nice easy look. Boy, look at that. Everything's lining up right here, right here, right there, right here. This, I'm just going to go back to these levels right here because we are so close to them. This is a high of 465, so let's just go to 466, create price alert from below, long, big pivot area coming up. And let's just double check our earnings again. Earnings, oh, we're close to earnings here. We're a day and a half away from earnings. You guys got to remember that this this single stock window can really be your friend to double check the short float and also the earnings dates coming forward. Which was another thing that reminds me. I'm going to go back to our trade of the week, CWIE here. You guys notice anything about the float? There's only 5 million shares in circulation here. 5 million shares with 40% short. Normally on these types of setups, I look for maybe a nice day and a half or 2-day move if you get our move and it pops before we start to reverse. But knowing what I know about the thin float and the huge short float in there, I mean, this thing, I would love to come back to you guys next week and say, hey, look at that, pat on my back, I told you so. This thing really had some run in it. So point being is if you're in this trade and you want to get out early, the first thing you can always do is sell half, and that satisfies your fear and greed demon that you're going to get a pullback and lose the profit you have on your screen. But I really feel like there could be some run in this thing because of the low float and the high short contingent. All right, I forgot to point that out. I wanted to touch on that. 2 more here off of this other alert here. Cisco. We're not just playing with $1.40 stocks here all the time. Cisco is a stock that you guys have probably heard of, but it's got a really interesting look here. It's starting to do that kind of cup and handle thing. Got very close to this level of interest back here, 3 days in a row of sell pressure, and then more sell pressure again, and then here we are making higher lows, pulling that battering ram back, looking to find the weak spot and see if we can push through again. This one's quite simple. We're going to put the high of this day here, 2870. We're going to go 2871. I'll change that from 2 to 1. And big level here in a big cap name. So once again, you know, we're not just bringing you these little crazy $2 and $3 stocks. This stuff can work anywhere. All right, so let's go ahead and set this one. Got our red line, hasn't triggered yet, but I think this one could very well trigger tomorrow. Let's check our earnings. We still have 10 days. Cisco still has some time to possibly break out of that technical pivot area and put some run in before earnings day. All right, so that one's set. The last one here, and I had a star next to this one. I really like this one. Potash, you know, it's these agricultural stocks and ag chemical stocks, and they've been really beat up with a lot of the commodities. We're starting to see some of the commodities come back, and potash can be kind of an ancillary product to the commodities. It's an agricultural type of product, but look, it was easily trying to make a cup and handle here, very cup and handly. But we've got a lot of noise here, a lot of noise in these wicks. We're building a little bit of a base here. I'm going to, again, put this one kind of off in the distant future. There's still some work to be done before it gets to this level, and you can see this level of interest goes all the way back to here. So you can see that horizontal crosshair really gives you a definitive look at what the possible pivot point would be. You know, sure, I could jump in here and try and get tricky and create some price alerts down here, but in my opinion, the pivot point is where it all happens. Just like that example I showed you guys in X, the pivot point is where it all happens. Thus, the giant move with a lot of follow-through. So let's go ahead and set an alert in pot. Again, this one might take a little while to trigger. Maybe it'll take earnings. Who knows? When are earnings on this one, by the way? Oh, well, earnings look like they're tomorrow. So we may have some action here in pot coming soon, but I'm going to put it just above the high of this wick, which is 1938. We'll go 1939, maybe even 1940. Create price alert. We'll just 1939 the way we originally said. Once again, big pivot level. Earnings out. April 28th. Okay, so that's really the way to just quietly go about using the holy trinity of the trade ideas simplicity method, using our top lists, our alerts, our holly trades, our holly trade rounds, looking at levels on the price chart, on the charts that make sense, and then using our price alerts. Now, for those of you that don't recall, the price alerts are shareable. And this is something that we are getting really, really excited. The ability to quickly not cheat, but to borrow somebody else's homework if they're willing to give it, is a very, very valuable tool in my opinion, especially for newer traders to try and get up to speed and get a good learning curve. Because let's face it, we're all the deer in the headlights that we saw earlier if we don't have a method or if we can't reduce this down to something simple. And so going forward, guys, I don't know where we're going with this, but all I know is it's going to be really exciting when you can take the work of seasoned traders and drop them through the cloud and onto your desktop where we're all alerted at the same price at the same time. The sky is really the limit for that type of value proposition. So as promised, I'm going to go ahead and deliver alerts to those that didn't set them with me but might want to use them. Got down here to Hobnanian, so I just right-click that selection, share these 8 selected price alerts, copy to my clipboard, and I'm going to go ahead and just drop it into the chat window there. So it's now active for those of you that have the AI functionality. For those of you that don't, I'm just wondering why at this point, you know, looking at the subscriber growth, again, the word is getting out. The feedback's just been really impressive, and I've been with this company since the beginning, and we're all really excited about where everything is going, and those subscriber level growths are a good confirmation to that fact. So can you share the Predator? Yes. Can you share the Predator? Oh, Cisco employee, stock options, looking good. Yeah. Let me go ahead and share that. I figured that might be a question. This was fresh off of the presses today from Mr. Merkin. So we'll go ahead and configure, right-click, and save and share. Copy to the clipboard, and we'll drop that into the chat window as well. Does your program also work on Forex? No, it's just the U.S. market equities. We also have some Toronto Stock Exchange options, or the option to turn on the Toronto Stock Exchange if you wish, but no futures, no Forex, no foreign markets, just the U.S. markets, which are the favorites of everybody. So that's my presentation tonight. Again, the chat window, you guys, is on your toolbar. You can click the little plus button. One says polls, one says handouts, one says dashboard, one says attendees. You can open up that chat window as such. If you don't catch it, info@trade-ideas is always the place to go with a request for something or a setting that you saw in the webinars, and they'll get that out right to you as well. So yeah, once again, just trying to demonstrate to you guys how I try and keep it simple, how I try to keep things coming at me in real time during the market so I'm not caught chasing my tail and I'm not a deer in the headlights. That's the method that works for me, and I just try and keep it simple. So with that said, thank you all for tuning in and your questions, and as they used to say in vaudeville, Scott, why don't you play me out?
Yeah, sounds good. Why don't you, I think slide 9 on your stack has the prices, and then we'll kind of scroll through the other ones. And I'd also like to direct the attendees' attention to the handouts panel on your GoToWebinar interface. There's a PDF with the same information I'm going to talk about now. A lot of you are subscribers who are already familiar with this, but a few of you are not. So, you know, we're a software as a service company, so our subscription is our core. $99 per month is our base subscription, and that gets you all of the real-time data, including the exchange fees, the charting, and also all of our support, including a full hour of one-on-one training that's screen sharing, get you started. Whenever you sign up, just go to the support section and click on training and just select your preferred time and date, and either Steve or Jamie will train you up. The annual plan is only $888 a year, and that saves a lot over the $99 a month. And it includes all the same great stuff. And with both of them, you can also test the backtesting module, although not the AI, to have full unlimited access to the backtesting module, the odds maker, and Holly the AI, and the price limit alerts, all the new stuff. That does require the permission that is enabled by our $1,100 license. It's a one-time license fee to get into the AI channel and the strategies and the odds maker. Now, to make that even easier for you today, we have a code for you. It's Holly27. It's all caps. It is case sensitive, and that expires at the end of business on Friday. So be sure to use this code before that date. But what that does, it lets you try Trade Ideas for half off the first month. Just $49. There's no contract, really no excuse for you not to try it and get the training. 20% off your first year. So if you're already on the monthly, just upgrade to the year and get in there for $710. Then you're locked in at renewing at $888 per year, even after we raise our rates. Odds maker, $1,100, 30% off of that. Takes it down to $770 lifetime. Again, if you're already on one of our subscriptions, that's a fantastic upgrade. It gets you into the AI, and you know, we're not going to have the single purchase for that forever. Eventually, that is going to only be available by subscription. Now, something that's fantastic that we have and that we will not have for much longer is the ability to purchase this for only, get a full year and lifetime AI access for only $14.80. So by using the code Holly27, that's good through Friday, and going to the address that you can click through on your PDF handout, or just type bit.ly/capital AI Holly. It has to be all in caps for the AI Holly. That takes you to a page where you can purchase them both together. This is a great upgrade if you're on the monthly plan. Just do this upgrade, shoot us an email letting us know you did it so we can double check your account, make sure that monthly plan is turned off. This saves you over $500 immediately, and it is probably the best offer we're going to have for a long time moving forward. It's probably going to expire at the end of May, so I wouldn't sit on that too long. Thanks everyone for joining us. Download that PDF. You will get an email with a reminder about all this stuff and a link to the recording a little bit later on this evening. Thanks, Steve, for the great presentation. It seemed like everyone enjoyed it. Thanks, Jamie, for helping out in the chat. Have a good time, everyone. Oh,
All right.
Yes. Y'all are going to get some emails to come to Jamie's Trading Studio tomorrow, and that's another great informative webinar with Jamie Hodge and Steve Gomez, and that's going to be tomorrow at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. So when you get that email, just go ahead and sign up for that if you're interested, and it'll be a good class. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Jamie.
All right, guys. See some of you tomorrow, and see some of you all next week.
Yep. Good night, everyone.